Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. My name is Jael Richardson, and I am the Executive Director and the founder of The Fold. We're going to have a few more people join us over the course of this time together. And typically, we start with a land acknowledgement, but I wanted to do something a little bit different today. Rather than reading a script about where I am or doing anything that we've typically done, playing a video, I wanted you, if you can see a window from where you're at, I wanted you to take a moment to look out the window to see if you can see sky or land, or maybe you're lucky enough to see some water, some mountains. And I want to just take a few seconds of quiet pause before we begin to think about the original stewards of the land where you are. So before we begin, just if you're logging in, if you are frenetically trying to get here and tune in and turn on and click through, I'm going to pause my voice for about 10 seconds and just take a moment to recognize being here, being in this moment, being on the land that you're on. As I mentioned, my name is Jael Richardson. I'm the executive director and the founder of Fold, the Festival of Literary Diversity. Very excited to be here with you today. I'm a little bit nervous because I'm in a new location and the Wi-Fi has been playing games on me. And so I'm hopeful that this video sustains itself all the way through. We are recording it. So if anything happens, we will continue recording it and we will get you a compiled version of whatever comes out over the next little bit. I also just want to acknowledge our chat is open. If you want to say hello and mention where you're from, that's great. If you get cut off, if you have to go somewhere, we will be sending you this recording once we have a chance to just correct all the captions. Which reminds me, if you need captions, you can click on the CC button at the bottom of your screen and the captions will show for you. And so that's just a way that you can participate if that's helpful to you. All right, I'm going to show you the content we're going to go through today. I'm going to try over the next 30 minutes or so to go through all of this information. I want to show you our new Fold team. I want to share a little bit about the history of Fold and talk about how Fold and Fold Kids Book Fest can operate in your classroom. We're going to show you the Clubhouse as well and do a little bit of a demo. So that you can see the platform and see how it actually works. We have Ardo Omer, our kids coordinator, here to do a festival sneak peek. So she's going to showcase a few of the authors. Some you'll recognize, some you'll want to recognize as well for this year's festival. I'm going to close by talking about pricing, about some dates and deadlines, and also about some year-round resources in addition to the festival that Fold Kids and Fold Kids Book Fest and Fold provides. If you have any questions, there will be time at the end for a Q&A. You're welcome to put those questions in the question and answer box as soon as they come, or wait till the end. If there's a question about tech or about like, hey, I missed that, you can put those things in the chat. I will not be paying too much attention to the chat because I'm not able to do that at the same time, but Ardo will hopefully be able to help you or clarify anything in that regard. She's monitoring that section. Okay, let's get into it. So first of all, I wanted to introduce you to the team. The team's changed a little bit, added a few. Amanda Leduc, who you'll see on the next screen, who's been with me since the very beginning, is on leave. And so we have a brand new group of folks. Ardo Omer on the right is our kids coordinator. On our left, you have Janisha Lewinson. She's our communications coordinator. And then Samantha Clark has joined the team recently as our volunteer and audience engagement coordinator. So this is the group of women that I get to work with every day. And these are the kind of people, when you reach out to Fold, you're communicating with one of the four of us. I want to start, for those of you who are new to Fold, who don't know a lot about us, with sort of how this all began, because I think it plays into where we are now. So in 2014, I came up with the idea for the Festival of Literary Diversity, and holding a festival in Brampton that would celebrate diverse authors and storytellers. At the time, I was an author. Some of you may know I've written a few books, Gutter Child, The Hockey Jersey. At that time, I had come out with my memoir and then a children's book called The Stone Thrower. And so when I was coming out with my books, I was going to a lot of festivals as an attendee, as an author, and I noticed that there was not a lot of diversity in the festival lineups, in the audiences, and I really wanted to change that. Oftentimes, when I was invited to literary festivals, it was to speak as a about identity, about what it's like to be a Black writer, and which was fine. But I also wanted to have opportunities to present and talk about craft. And so I started the Festival of Literary Diversity to create a space that centered marginalized and underrepresented authors and storytellers, and that gave them the opportunity to talk about their identity as well as their craft. And this was for authors from the queer community, from racialized communities, from the disability community, to really be the central focus of the festival and the people we build the festival around, rather than what was happening, which was sort of afterthoughts or just a few of you, you know? And so that was really my goal. In 2015, we announced that we would be launching the very first Festival of Literary Diversity in May of 2016, the following year. And that's what we did. A year later, we delivered the very first Festival of Literary Diversity in Brampton. We had events all throughout the local downtown area. They were all in person. We had, you'll see in the top right corner, our first school group events. We had a full day of events for educators, a whole day-long program. We had children's events. We did it all, all in one weekend in May in 2016. And from the start, we had this threefold mission. To engage readers, to inspire writers, and to empower educators. So this was a really important priority for us, especially the educator piece. And by 2018, we recognized that the festival needed to take a different form. In addition to doing these in-person events, these are some pictures from this past year, we also needed to do events that were specific to children, that were specific to educators, or providing some information that educators were asking about. And so in 2019, we delivered our very first Fold Kids Book Fest, which was offered in September. It was offered in Brampton, entirely in person. That was not unusual in 2019, as you know. And so this was the beginning of sort of really thinking about Canadian kidlit content. And we noticed some huge gaps right away. Very difficult, for example, to find Black male authors of picture books. Very difficult to find picture books about disability that were written by authors who with lived experience. So we started, as we separated out this content, to recognize these gaps, these holes, and that became a new part of this Fold Kids Book Fest mission. In 2020, as you know, the pandemic came and it pushed us into a virtual space, which at the time felt really difficult for kids content. If you can see the pictures from our first Fold Kids Book Fest, it was very interactive. There's story times, there were workshops, there was drumming. And so virtually it seemed like a strange transition for a kids festival. But that actually became a really pivotal moment for us and for the festival, because we recognized what we could do in a virtual space that we couldn't do in person, which was to really reach and connect with educators across the country, to provide access and information, and to provide content and authors and illustrators that would not only shape the festival, but would shape the kind of work you're doing year round. And that was really, really important for us. And so what I want to show you in this next slide is where that evolved to. The first year it was a series of Zoom events, but eventually we turned to opening up and creating a virtual Clubhouse, to making the virtual experience a true experience for everyone, and allowing educators to log into a space where they could access content and information. So you'll see in that top right corner, that's a picture of our exhibit hall. I'm going to show it to you live in a second, but that's a place where you can go. The bottom right is an example of one of our exhibit booths where you can go publisher to publisher and find specific information. You can find the latest picture books that are coming out in Canada. You can find study guides and activity sheets and all kinds of resources, all populated in one space and all focused on diverse Canadian content. So this is sort of where we are now and where we've evolved to, and we continue to develop our programming. I want to give you on this next slide some examples of what that programming looks like. These are session graphics from our festival 2 years ago, I believe, if that's correct, but it gives you a sense of what kinds of activities we do and how we present them. So that purple one, the Illustrator Battle, that's an annual event we do every year. We've done it since the beginning. It's probably our most popular, most sought after event. It's a live drawing competition between 3 illustrators hosted by our own Ardo, Omer. We also do storytime events. We Move Together was a live reading of a storybook about disability and accessibility in a community. We also do a series on the writing life. Fashion Forward was one like that, where it's an interview with a single author about their journey to create a book and to write their story. And the left side, Crisis in the Classroom, is an example of one of our educator discussions. So this is specifically designed not for students, but for educators, typically offered after Ontario Day class times, but also recorded so that you can watch it live or on demand. I want to explain a little bit. On the right, you'll see some colors and some categories. In the year that I'm showing you right now, and even last year, we used 3 different age categories. We've actually, for 2023, separated it out into 4 age categories. So we have sessions designated primary for grades 1 to 3, junior for grades 4 to 6, intermediate for 6 to 8, teens, grades 9 to 10. It can also be 11, 12 if that's appropriate, and then educators. I should mention that all of our sessions, even though we designate them for a particular age category, it's really at your discretion whether it's kind of an appropriate event for your students. So, for example, the Illustrator Battle is very popular even amongst the younger children. I think it's designated intermediate or junior. But younger students watch it. One of the reasons it's designated older is because it's 45 minutes to an hour, whereas our primary ones tend to be 30 minutes, full stop. So these are ways that we use those designations to kind of help you understand maybe what might work best for your class or how you might want to engage in the content. You may, for example, watch round 1 with a primary class and then show them rounds 2 and 3 a little bit later so that it's not as long. There's all sorts of ways that you can engage with the material. And what I really wanted to say is that those age categories are really meant as a guide. It's about the format of the book that's being presented, and the age category that's kind of best suited to that, but not solely exclusively for them. And then, of course, we have our educator workshops and some evening events that are specifically designed for adults, but again, might work really well with a grade 11 to 12 class, or even your grade 9 to 10 students. So those are the kinds of things that we try and do to support your experience at the festival. Another thing we do is we have developed an educator guide, and every year teachers will receive this educator guide. We're trying to get it to teachers as soon as possible. So we're trying to actually get it to you at the point of registration or very soon after. But the goal of the educator guide is to support your experience at the festival. On that left-hand side, you'll see a page about getting started. This is the first page in the educator guide, and it sort of explains how you can use the educator guide. There's always a pre-event and a post-event activity, questions or small things that you can do with your class before the event, a day before or the day of and just before, and a post-event activity, something that you can do afterwards. These are just designed to be general ideas. The educator guide is created by a teacher who looks at each of the sessions and develops the activities based on their knowledge of that book and that age category. So in the middle slide, you'll see 2 examples of a pre and post event activity. I know that you can't see it well on this PowerPoint slide, but you can can go to our website and you can find past educator guides and programs and things like that. But you'll see there's a series of questions that you can do before and after the event. Sometimes they're activities. The other thing we have is bios and a single page for each of the authors that are part of the festival. So you can go see their bio, find out where to follow them on social media, find out a little bit more about their book, who published it, where you can get it, etc. So the Educator Guide is a really, really helpful resource that goes alongside each of our events to support your learning. One thing I want to clarify, because if you haven't been to a literary festival, some folks don't know or might be confused. You don't actually have to read the books. Your students don't have to read the books before the event. The events are designed to be a discussion that perhaps excites them about the book or about the conversation or about the learning. My husband always jokes like, I would never go to a concert without knowing the songs or the artist that's performing. And I always have to explain to him, literary festivals are different. We go to them to learn, to discover, to find authors and books. And so these resources are designed to help you. And then if afterwards you really like an author or a book and you want to order it, I will show you how to do that in a few moments. But that's just to give you a sense of how the festival looks and how it works on a general level. I'm going to take a minute to take you actually into the platform and to show you how to sign in so you can get an idea of what it looks like to experience it. And then Ardo is going to come in and do the big reveal of some of our events. So in a few weeks, this page will be totally done. It's not quite done. We have some things to add, to change, to adjust, but eventually you'll have access to this page. You'll see on this left-hand side that you can get a virtual Clubhouse pass for $20. You can get a virtual bundle pass for $75. And then these are about our in-person weekend tickets. Once you've registered, you will be given your email address will be your access point, but you'll also be given a code that you can use to share with your students so they can log into the platform on their own devices securely. There are certain things that students won't have access to on the platform, like the chat, but that's designed to just make it a little bit safer for students to be on it and using the space. Once you have your email address registered, you're good to go. You can use this space to log into the platform. You'll create a password your first time, and then you'll just use that password to enter every time. And this is what it will look like. When you register, initially, this is what you'll see so that you can know that your password works, that everything's working just fine. And then when the festival platform opens on October 30th, you'll actually be able to go into the lobby and see the interior space. So this is the first time we're showing some of the new looks and features of this lobby space. But I just want to show you two places in terms of the resource side of things. I talked about the Educator Guide, but if you go once you go into the platform in the library, this will be all updated for this year's content, but you'll be able to access videos from the authors based on age category, them talking about their books. This is what you need to know. And this is how you can find more information about my characters or things like that. So author videos, festival resources, so that new Fold Kids Educator Guide will be here, as well as our festival program. And then additional resources. So individual book guides. So for every book that we have represented at Fold Kids Book Fest, if it has a book guide for it, we develop a whole page where you can find those. And then there's also bonus resources. So this is one place that you can go. The other place that I want to show you is the exhibit hall. And in the exhibit hall, I showed you an image of that in the PowerPoint presentation. But in this exhibit hall, you can actually go to any of these publishers and click on their booth, and you'll be able to see their information. So this is for Orca Books. You can see videos that they have uploaded, documents, and you can add those to your tote bag. And the tote bag is a place you can go to sort of collect all the information that you want available to you. When you go to your tote bag, it'll show you all the things that you wanted to collect, and you'll be able to email them to yourself or watch them. So that's a really great way to kind of keep all your resources that you want together until you're ready to put them in whatever place you put your resources. So that's just a little bit of an overview of the space. I'm going to bring Ardo in now to share a little bit more about, a little bit of a sneak peek reveal of what we have going for this year.
Hello, everyone. As Jael said, I'm Ardo. I am the kids coordinator at the festival, and I look forward to giving you a sneak peek of some of the authors that will be at the festival. We actually haven't announced anyone just yet, and so that's what we're going to do now. There we go. Okay, so we are actually going to have David Suzuki as part of our virtual offerings, and he'll be presenting his picture book, Mampa's Insect Expedition. So it's a picture book, and what's really cool about this particular picture book is that it was inspired by David's experience during the pandemic, where parents were essentially having to help their kids with school at home, virtual schooling. And for him, he was hanging out with his grandkids quite a lot, and so he had them explore their back garden and kind of break down the importance of insects to the ecosystem and just a lot of fun insect facts. So we're very, very excited to have David Suzuki as part of this year's festival. Then we have Deirdre Haverlock, who is an Indigenous writer, and she has a new book out called Indigenous Ingenuity that is written for middle grade. It is nonfiction. She co-wrote it with someone else, and it's essentially a look at all the really cool things Indigenous people across North America have developed, celebrating it. It's kind of like Indigenous History Month vibes, where it's focusing on a lot of cool things that they've developed. So it's going to be very exciting to see her kind of give examples of various things like corn and how Indigenous people cultivated corn in North America. Then we have Nadia El Hone, who is the editor of the Anti-Racist Kitchen. It is a anthology of 21 stories and recipes from fabulous North American authors who are racialized, and they kind of all have essays that talk about how food has empowered them against oppression as a way to celebrate the fun things in their lives. And so there's a diverse array of folks featured in this. And then we have lastly Cody Dill, who we've had at the festival in the past. He had actually presented Welcome to the Cipher, which is a fantastic picture book on rap. And this new book of his is a nonfiction YA book called Stay Up: Racism, Resistance, and Reclaiming Black Freedom. And in it, he kind of breaks down activism, how he goes about, going about dismantling white supremacy in institutions like the education system. He talks about actually being fatigued as being an activist, as being someone who speaks out, and how he goes about that. It's fantastic. And I'm honestly, this is just a sneak peek. I'm very excited for all of you to see more of the authors, and we'll be announcing who they are leading up to registration, which will be open at the end of September.
Thank you, Ardo. I'm going to finish up with just some of the nitty gritties on pricing and dates and deadlines. You saw on that initial platform that you can get a virtual pass for $20 and a bundle of 5 virtual passes for $75. So those are going to be available September 27th. You'll be able to go right into the platform and register, no problem. We also have something called our board pass, which we've developed over the last few years of doing virtual events, which is an opportunity for school boards to purchase passes for all of their educators and all of their students in one lump sum. So those are $2,500. And the way the board pass works is we have a board pass application form where we basically get the name of the person who is purchasing it for the board, the name of the financial person that we have to reach out to, and then we invoice them. And as soon as that form is completed, we also begin to create a code and a series of resources that your board can use to share content with the rest of the educators. So that's the $2,500. We have a few school boards, and I'll name them now in case you're here and you're from one of those boards and you're like, is it me? But Peel and Halton have already reached out about what we call like our double board pass, which is schools that also want to be a part in the same way in Fold 2024. So at the Fold Festival, we do in May, We also have the same virtual Clubhouse, although it's different. It looks different. It's targeting an older demographic, 14 plus. And so the school content is teens only. And so some of the school boards purchase passes for both festivals. Again, recognizing it's not just for your students, it's also a resource for educators. We've seen educators who are elementary school educators attend Big Fold, as we call it, and learn things that help them in curating and working with their students at a younger level as well. So there is crossover content for educators for sure, and there certainly is content for teens in both festivals. And so some of the festivals, rather than doing billing twice, prefer just get it all done at the beginning. And so that's how we do board passes for those. So the application form that we will send out in response to this event as well gives you the opportunity to select just the board pass for Fold Kids Book Fest or to ask for a board pass for both festivals. What is the benefit of the board pass? Well, one of the key benefits is the access to the platform. So these are just a couple of dates and deadlines that are important to note. Registration opens September 27th. October 30th, the virtual Clubhouse opens, which means instead of when we logged onto the platform and you saw that page that's like, hey, the festival is coming, on October 30th, you'll log in and you'll be right inside the lobby. When the virtual Clubhouse opens, you'll also be able to go into the auditorium right away and have access to special Halloween content specifically. So because it opens the 30th, you can show it on the 30th or the 31st. You can also show it after the fact. It's not designed to be, spiders in costumes or anything like that, but they're designed to sort of promote some of the content that's really fun to talk about around Halloween, writing scary stories or creating unique creatures. And so there's a session for each age category that will be available as soon as the platform opens. We call that our bonus content. And then November 1st, we start our live events. So those are some of the reading with David Suzuki and some of the events that are connected to the authors that Ardo mentioned will start November 1st. And then December 5th is when the virtual Clubhouse closes to regular pass holders. And if you have a board pass, it also buys you access to the platform for the entire school year. So that means that you can, we've had a lot of high school teachers who want to show it both semesters. We have some teachers who say, that content, I'm covering insects in February. Can we watch that David Suzuki event again or for the first time when we're doing that specific unit? So that's what the board pass allows you, that flexibility to go into the platform, to watch the content, to have access to all those resources for the entire school year. There was something else I wanted to cover. Oh, about board passes. If you are here in this session, if you're watching this on demand and you're the person who decides whether to get a board pass, in terms of timing, one of the reasons we did this session now is it's really good if we can have your board passes in place in time for registration opening. Just makes it the easiest, cleanest. Sometimes if teachers don't know they have a board pass, they register on their own and then they find out later that they didn't, that they had a specific code that would get them access for free. So that's just something, if you're the decision maker, it's great to have a decision, mid-September, which I know is a very busy time for teachers. So this is why we're trying to give you as much notice as possible. We have given out board passes and done board passes right up until the point the platform opens, but sometimes it's just hard to get that information out to teachers. Truth is, they have access to the platform for the entire year, so it's still fine. The last thing that I wanted to show you is our year-round resources. So something that you can be a part of, you can follow throughout the year, are things that I'm showing here. Right in the middle, we have our Fold Kids Book of the Month program. This is a program that Ardo started where she picks a picture book and then either a middle grade book or a young adult Canadian book by a marginalized author to feature every month. So every month you're getting up-to-date new recommendations and resources for your classroom, for yourself. We've also added the Fold Kids Challenge. If you're a follower of Big Fold, you'll know that from the beginning, we've always done a reading challenge, encouraging people to read outside of their perhaps normal selections or their typical selections. You'll see this year we started out by reading a debut title by a Muslim author, and then moved to a speculative tale by a Black author. And so we do all these different challenges throughout the year, and we promote them on our social media, and we decided to add them in for our Fold Kids Challenge as well. So you can follow that. And then the last thing is something new. We are partnering with Tin Lids this year. And if you're looking to order books from Fold and from Fold Kid Book Fest recommendations, we're going to be having a spot right on their main page and lists that you can go to and say, I want all these books that are for primary. I want all these books for teens, or I want the whole book list for my library. And you'll be able to select those titles and order them in bulk really easy. And so that's coming soon. And I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. They'll have our Fold Kids Book Fest 2022 list up, and they're also going to be adding our Fold Kids 2023 book list as soon as it's ready. And that's another resource that will be available to you in addition to the Educator Guide, a complete book list with the titles that are being covered at this year's festival. So that is it for the bulk content, all those things that we wanted to make sure you had, all that information. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to bring Ardo back in, and we're going to look at the questions that you've put in the question and answer box. If you haven't put a question in there yet, if you have a question, I'm going to just give you some hints about things that you can ask about. So of course, ask about Fold Kids Book Fest and ask about like how-tos, but Ardo is also, I think, one of the, if not the most knowledgeable kid lit curator in Canada. I'm going to say it. She just knows a ton of books and resources, things that are coming out, things that have come out in the past. And so you can also ask her for information about that.
Thank you, Jael. We do have some questions. I'll start with the first one. Will there be any French language content this year or in the future?
This is a great question. We are working on it. Actually, there is a session that we're working on that we're hoping, but we have not finalized the list yet. And that's something that we will confirm or deny. No, confirm or answer. I guess it will know in the next 2 weeks or so, Ardo? That's kind of a you question too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think in general, it's just nice to note that we are an English language festival, so we will it's the French content will be more like a case by case basis,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily a guaranteed for our festival. But we hope to incorporate French when opportunities arise.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question. Are there in-person events for kindergarten to grade 5 this year?
There are not in-person events for schools for kindergarten to grade 5 this year. We do have community events on Saturday, November 4th and Sunday, November 5th, especially Saturday, November 4th and the November 3rd for that age category.
Yeah,
so
Friday.
Storytime readings, workshops. We're having a cooking workshop. There's all kinds of things that'll be happening in Brampton for that age group.
When will the recording be shared? Very keen to share with other teachers. So I'm assuming it's this recording.
Yes, this recording will be available. We're hoping, what's today? So by the end of the week, I would say confidently, we try and get it out like ASAP, but I like to give myself a bit of a buffer. So I would say by the end of the week for sure. Our goal will be to get it to you sometime tomorrow, actually, but things happen.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions. So this is going to be a last call to any folks who have any specific questions regarding the festival, books, anything like that. Excited people. That's good to see. Quite a few people are excited about what's happening, and that's great. A big reason why we wanted to do this was specifically just letting folks know how a festival operates, especially a kids festival that works so closely with schools and providing content for schools. Because as Jael said earlier, it's not it's an event you can jump into without having to do necessarily homework ahead of time, aside from making sure it's something that's appropriate for your students. But what's great about festivals in general is that you may go because you really like an author and you want to hear them talk about their books, but oftentimes you go because the topic sounds interesting and you leave going, wow, I probably wouldn't have picked up this book until I actually like went in and listened to the author talk about it. Because sometimes the author is much better at selling their book in those conversations than when you're just reading a synopsis and things like that. So
And I'll wrap
big
up by saying there are a lot of Canadian publishers producing really great, diverse content. And I think one of the biggest downfalls is our ability to connect each other, right? For publishers to find teachers, for teachers to find publishers. And I think the festival provides a really great space where all that content, a lot of that content is in one place. And so I think you'll find some really great authors that you didn't know about, even in the exhibit hall. And so I hope to see many of you at the virtual festival this year. If you can join us in person, of course, that would be lovely. And of course, if you are interested in taking a jaunt to Brampton in May, we'd love to see you at Big Fold as well. So that was really great. 35 minutes, nice, tight.
We do have one question that came
one more
in.
question. Okay, cool.
So this person said, I was a little late logging on. I saw your age group start at grade 1, yet you just mentioned kindergarten. Are the book fest sessions for grades 1 to 3 organized that way because of the length only, 30 minutes that you mentioned, or is there another reason?
So we do have pre-K events as well that we will designate. I think for the school groups, we typically start with grade 1, just because mostly out of habit, I think. I think it's more to say the 30-minute length, like, is that too long? A lot of the 30-minute events for the primaries are reading a story and then doing an activity. So I think it's not that kindergarteners can't join in. I think that's the question, right? Like, are there events for kindergarteners and pre-K? Yeah, I think that you'll see, and even if you want to email us, we can sometimes send you an example of an event we've done before if you're curious. But I think that it can be shown to kindergarteners. And I think that's just the way we've done it in the past, is starting at the grade 1s.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining us. And hopefully this was helpful.
All right. Take care. Have a good one.